Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us live here today. Victor, you're back in the studio.
I'm back in the studio for 2 days, 3 days, something like that.
Okay.
Temporary solution.
Well, I have to admit, being the producer of this, I like having you back in this studio versus the other place. I don't mind the other place, but I prefer this one.
Oh, I prefer this one as well. Takes the major problem with the other place is that it takes time, effort, money, and all the other things until it's in better shape. So step by step.
That sounds like every business ever existing. Time, money, whatever. So
I need to put self constraints on myself, because if you look at my Amazon wish list, if I don't, I think that I'm putting rules on myself as if I'm, I don't know, 3-year-old, something like that. This month you can buy 3 things. You cannot do more. Otherwise, I would go bankrupt in 2 weeks.
So, all right, let's bring. Here's Moz. Moz, how you doing today? And Andre, thanks for joining us live today. You should publish your wish list. Make it public.
Okay, it's embarrassingly big. with a bunch of expensive stuff and bunch of silly stuff and things like that.
By the way, in case you don't know who we are, my name is Darren Pope. This is Victor Farsick, and we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this live stream, usually about this time. We've sort of blocked out the rest of the year. This is my lunch break, and this is Victor's also lunch break, typically.
Yeah.
Even though he's 6 hours ahead of me.
It's lunch. Still lunch.
So, thanks for joining us live today. If you're watching the replay, we'll see how much longer you... Oh, yeah, Brink. Drink, Stefan. See, this is why we have live people here. Do you have a drink today? I still have my normal.
No, still water. Still water.
Well, this is still water, too. It's lime. Wait, come on. Let me get my face out of there. Okay, there we go. Lime. I like my lime. So everybody, welcome. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all something, again, sort of probably too much information. I don't know if I've got arthritis or I've been editing too much, but this finger, not the middle finger, but this finger is like, I'm hurting. Like even pop that can right now. It's time for icing it more. I probably shouldn't just drink this, just put my finger on the can and let it ice.
Does it mean that you switched to touchpad instead of a mouse?
I've got a Magic Mouse, so it's a slick top anyway.
Oh.
But probably I should move to a trackpad and do 2 fingers. Like you're on the airplane, right? It's always 2 fingers. Go here, go there.
No, it doesn't work with 2 fingers.
Oh, that's right.
It needs to be 1 finger.
That's just okay. Anyway. So it's just becoming more and more painful by the day, and I got to figure out how to get rid of that pain.
Nope. You need to figure out how to do everything from a keyboard. Shortcuts. Forget mouse. Unless you're drawing something.
It's hard to... Well, this is when I'm editing videos. It's hard to scrub through things. Now, I do have... Okay, you were talking about toys that you want. I've got a toy that I want, but that also means I have to change my editor. I'll put that on my list at some point.
What is the toy? And the editor?
It's a NLE, nonlinear editing thing. It's a keypad about this big that's got a dial on it and buttons. So I could do everything this way, but then I'm going to have different repetitive issues. But eventually, yes. Someday, yes. Let's get into the show instead of us talking about our wish lists.
Wish lists.
The podcast this week, Infrastructure as Code meets Day 2. Now, I tried to be cool with this picture. I could not find a good enough picture of a snake that was bigger than the mouse that I liked. I found some, but then the mouse wasn't as good. But then I just started thinking, okay, what if the mouse was to eat the snake? Because that could happen. But that's not why. Yeah. It was sort of like Infrastructure as Code meets Day 2. I wanted to sort of let this be adversarial. Because everything's great day 1. Right. Day one is always the consultants have been here and they've said, okay, we're done. Have a nice life. And then day two occurs.
I think that's the key word. It's not necessarily day one, day two. It's the day consultants leave.
Yeah.
You with the mess, or not the mess, or problems, or whatever it is. So when people leave, then and you're faced on your own with problems, then that's day one. That's the real one.
It's true. Up to that point, it was all day zero. I think Moz is right. I think the mouse would die. In this case, I don't know. This one's, well, I don't know. I'd have to figure that. I don't know what kind of snake that one is. It doesn't look to be poisonous, and it doesn't look to be a constrictor. The mouse would still probably die, though. We had Tim Davis on this episode from ENV0, which is still hard for me to say, like Environment Zero, ENV0, and just talked about a lot of different things. He was the one from Texas as well, I think. So
it was a good episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is.
Still, yeah. All of our episodes are good.
Still good.
They're still good because they're still being published. We don't take anything down. We talked about Rosemary's book, Essential Infrastructure as Code. I saw that they did a new release of that last week, to where they published a new chapter. So you can still get that book. And there was a comment at some point, I don't remember who made the comment, that this code did not work, but I tested it and it did work because I actually bought a different book, not one there. So this code still works. 40% off all books all the time at Manning. So use that code. We don't get any kickback on it. It's just something that we can provide to you. They seem to like us. They send us lots of their authors, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So podcast, listen to it. This one was a little bit longer too, I think. It was almost 30 minutes, right? 33 minutes. Yep. Because the play's there. I keep forgetting I can actually see numbers in this player. Oh, that doesn't matter today. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Cloud budget. So this came out from HashiCorp this week. Cloud budget's busted. Almost 40% overspend last year. But does that really matter? For a lot of people, it probably still does because they still had leases and everything else they were still having to pay. But people that didn't have leases, this could probably actually be worse. So you're just going to ignore this one and go to sleep. Okay, good.
No. I mean, it's we're still. I know that some don't agree, but I do think that we're still in early stages with cloud, and it was to be expected that will be overspent because from one day to another you tell people now you can do stuff. Kind of you give people freedom, and of course that they're going to take the most of it. Right?
Yeah. It would be interesting to know how much of the overspend last year was due to pandemic-related spend versus true scaling, not wasteful spend. That would be interesting but there's no way to ever really know that number. But this was interesting to me, though. This split does not look anything like what I was expecting. Less than $100,000. I was expecting probably a bigger. I expected probably like 25% on this less than 100,000, 15 to 25%. I wasn't expecting this one to be 40. I was expecting this one to maybe be 25 to 30%. I was expecting a 2 million to 10 million to be closer to 40%.
I'm guessing that percentage is number of companies, not the percentage of spend, right?
No, it is the percentage of spend. They spent 2 million to what's the organization's annual multi-cloud budget? This is 2 million.
Yeah,
2 million. I mean, and it depends on how you define multi-cloud, right? Are you talking Slack? Does Slack roll into that? Does Microsoft Office roll into that? Or
I think that almost every company now has multi-cloud, and it will define it depending on what they're doing, but one way or another. Either they're running in AWS and Azure, or they're running only in AWS and having Slack. But
right.
It's too popular of a term to have a company that doesn't say that we have multi-cloud.
Yes, multi-cloud is another one of those words that is it needs a better definition.
Yeah.
But they were talking also here that cloud cost is a double-edged sword, not really surprising. Cost concerns as a primary cloud inhibitor. Yeah, that's true. But is cloud going to be cheaper than your data center? Depends on who you are, right? We've talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, I constantly have impression that it's comparing apples and oranges type of stuff, when we compare prices, cloud and on-prem.
Yeah, it's not even apples and oranges, I don't think. I think it's like
apples and strawberries.
I don't even think it's fruit against fruit. I think it's a fruit against a piece of a tree or something. I don't know, because I don't know. There's a certain point, I think. My opinion is, and it's almost becoming a belief, that once you hit a certain level, cloud doesn't make sense anymore for your core systems. Edge systems, sure, but not core systems.
Yeah. And when you reach certain size and certain capabilities, let's say.
Yeah.
Because you still need, if cloud doesn't make sense for you, that's a valid statement only when you can replicate the things that you're doing, that you can be doing in cloud yourself.
Yeah. This is the one sentence that I thought was most telling. This has led many companies to waste an estimated 20% or more of their cloud spend. This being tracking and controlling spend can be almost as complex as the technology itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
Auditing. And I'm in complete agreement with that, because it is hard to get numbers.
I will repeat what I say very often. That's one of the reasons. There are many reasons why I like AWS, but that's one of the reasons why I like, let's say, Google Cloud, right? There's a project, right? And you know who is in the project, and you know how much a project costs. You can. There is that way to divide groups of people or applications or whatnot, and there is no such thing in AWS.
Right. I think what Ma's saying here is true. See, many companies moving from AWS and Google to smaller firms because they're simple to manage and track the resources.
I think that's absolutely true, with the note that I think that statement is very correct, very valid and correct for small companies. So small companies moving to smaller providers, yes.
Yeah.
I do not necessarily see Linode, DigitalOcean, Civo as serving, Fortune 500 companies. They don't have those capabilities. But for smaller size companies, yes, that's true.
Yep.
I would even go further and say that a significant number of companies are wasting their time and their money running in Google and Azure and AWS, simply because they don't need that. They need a Kubernetes cluster. They need a VM, load balancer, and that's about it. There is a significant number of people or companies that need just that. That's all they need. And if that's all you need, then why would you go to somebody who is 3 times more expensive or 10 times more expensive and justifies that price by additional things that you do not need?
Yep. And they also call it here, it would be easy to blame the pandemic for overspend, but only 21% of the respondents blame the pandemic. Okay, whatever. A number easily topped by traditional, like shifting priorities. Well, pandemic still shifted priorities last year. I mean, if you think about it, everybody started working from home. Everything changed. So.
Oh yeah. It sped up the process.
Yeah, it did speed up the process. What was the timing that we had talked about before? It made 10 years sort of collapse into a few months.
Exactly. Exactly. When we had the discussions, basically all the way until COVID, we had discussions. Hey, on-prem or cloud? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I go to cloud? Should I go to cloud? Now I think that we're in a phase that nobody, or almost nobody, who will live for much longer is not on cloud. I mean, partly, 1%. Hey, 1%. I'm not saying everything in cloud and all that. Even if you look at those huge companies that we all admire, Netflixes of the world that are on-prem, they also use cloud, just not fully, just for something.
Yeah, I would not want to build my own CDN. That would be silly. I'm going to use,
For example,
a Cloudflare, an AWS. I'm going to use whoever and whatever. That's fine.
correct. And I think that's a misconception that people, when you say cloud, they think, hey, that must be a VM. Absolutely not. Doesn't have to. CDN can be used. CDN, you're in cloud.
Yep.
GitHub, you're in cloud.
Yeah. Well, we won't just call them out. GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket through Atlassian, all available, all cloud-based. In fact, Atlassian has really doubled down, tripled down on their cloud strategies. So it's going to get more and more interesting over the next couple of years, I think. Well, anyway, so the links for everything that we're going through today will be down in the show notes if you've not been with us before. If you've been with us before, you already know that. And you also know that even though I say I try to get it done right after, it usually doesn't happen. It usually happens on Saturday. So, and this week it will be Saturday. All right, so let's move on. Docker released 3.6 this week, or last week. Last week. And we've talked about dev environments before, and my head is still scratching on what the heck is the environment. And I still don't get it, because you can now share dev environments with your colleagues and get started with code already on your local machine as well as the existing remote repository. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me. Have you played with this at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm not really. I think that the only thing I'm using with Docker Desktop is to start my K3D or kind cluster.
And then
there are 2 points here, and to build an image. I mean, when I'm talking not production image, but kind of like, I need quickly this image to try it out, something demo purpose. So 2 things. Whatever else you tell me, I admire, but I don't use.
Okay, so I probably asked you this, but I'm going to ask you again because it's probably been a while since I asked. You said kind or K3D. Why are you not using the inbuilt Kubernetes in Docker Desktop?
Because it's slower to start and slower to shut down, and I do not want my cluster locally to run forever and ever. And I definitely don't want to go and click seven times with my trackpad until I shut it down or something like that. Okay. So I like my Docker running all the time because I need it one way or another, but my cluster only when I need it.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. It goes through this whole dev environment thing, and then you can open it. But what's interesting is it opens VS Code inside the dev environment container.
Nice.
So this is, I guess, dev environment is sort of like a local Git pod, for lack of a better term. I don't know.
Wait. Opens VS Code within the local dev. Why would it? Why would they want that? I understand if it's a remote dev environment. I understand fully why.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Locally, I mean, why would they do that? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because VS Code in a browser is not 100%. I'm not as productive in a browser as VS Code on desktop, right? And I already have desktop version, so I don't see the advantage of that, to be honest.
I don't either. And then they also announced some volume management changes, which is fine. Nice. And then RC finally for Compose v2. Not that you're using Compose much, but I was using it the past couple of weeks just for some small stuff, and it's fine. So
Docker Compose is one of those tools that revolutionized quite a few things. I think it's absolutely amazing. I personally don't have much use of it, but I think it's absolutely amazing piece of tech.
Yep. So if you haven't upgraded yet to Docker Desktop 3.6, get ready to download almost, I think it was a 3.5 gig binary. It was large. Unlike here, Google Cloud Run announced this week, GA finally deploying from source code. This is something that you love to hate, right? Basically, they're just using build packs and Cloud Build to automatically build the containers from the source code. So you don't have to have Docker anywhere. Or set up build packs, or set up Cloud Build. This is the Heroku model, right? Point it at the repository, walk away.
Exactly. To me, that's the direction. I might agree or disagree with specifics, like whether it should be build packs or this or that, but yeah. Ultimately, we all want to write code, and that's it.
Just let it run. So what this does under the hood is it does a build submit and a run deploy. It is using artifact registry under the hood. Now, this is where I think it's different than what Heroku and others do. It's actually using the registry under. Now, it would be interesting to take a look at the registry and find out if I could just do a deploy again. If I needed to, quote unquote, roll back, go back to the previous tag, could I do that? I'm guessing yes.
Yes, ultimately, it's equivalent of Docker image build, push, and then the old Cloud Run command to basically deploy that image. Putting those three into one command, why not?
Yep. So if it has a Docker file, it's going to use the Docker file. But otherwise, it's going to cover Go, Node.js, Python, Java, and .NET out of the box. So it'd be interesting to see what Java is, if it's looking for a POM XML or a build Gradle, and then it's smart enough. I guess so with build packs. It would have to, right? Because the build packs exist for those.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the build pack. You don't really need the build pack when you have Docker file. Yeah. So and I don't know how much freedom they allow there, but theoretically with build pack, you can make it build in any way you want.
Yep. Only one small twist, which makes sense. You can only use this in regions that have artifact registry. It makes sense since that's a dependency.
Yeah.
That's more than reasonable. It's a convenience feature, but does not allow customization of the build. Oh, okay. So if the happy path doesn't work for you, you can always go off and do what you want to do by yourself.
Exactly.
And that's okay too, right?
That's that's the direction I prefer, kind of. And we have always that struggle in industry that do you start with a happy product that does the happy part and then build towards flexibility or unhappy parts? And in this case, I think that Google is taking the other route, right? First, I'm going to have a tool that can be easy or hard, that can do what needs to be done, and then we build happy parts on top of it.
I like simple first, because if I can get people using the simple, I can always make it harder. If I did my abstractions correctly when I made the simple.
Yes, assuming that you're building that product that is simple on some building blocks that already exist.
Correct.
Right? Now, if we start from simple without having those fundamentals, like imagine you building it without something like Cloud Run without having Knative, and start with simple.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be great, actually. But you will run into problems later on when you need to start thinking about different use cases.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're using Cloud Run, now it's even easier. Now it's truly Heroku-like.
Yeah. We're getting Heroku back, finally.
It never left. It's still there.
I know, but now it's disguised in form of Cloud Run and others.
Yeah. I want to go back to a comment that Stefan made that I missed. Docker for Mac Kubernetes turns a MacBook Pro into an airplane. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All of them do, though, I think. I don't think it's just... Kind and K3S also do.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I would wish if there would be a Docker for Mac equivalent that would be just running containers. That would be so much more efficient.
So basically, if they were just using containerd or whatever, or rund, or
yeah, I mean basically it's create a virtual machine and run containerd inside, which is what Docker does in principle. But then it has a bunch of stuff on top, which are absolutely great when you need it, and absolutely not great when you don't.
Right. Which is probably most of the time.
And then I'm not. I sound probably worse than I am. I'm not complaining about Docker Desktop. It's installed in my Mac. In every Mac I have, it's there. It exists and it's running containers. I have no complaints about it.
Well, we saw the NSA put out a hardening guide the other week, and it didn't take long. Somebody released a tool that implemented those suggestions.
Nice.
So you can install it, and then when you run it, off it goes, and it says, hey, let me go find the things. And here it is. Failed resources. I wish that would pause there longer. But if you haven't downloaded Kubescape yet, you should. They are actively releasing right now. Actively releasing.
But you know, all those things, take when Darin says something like this that is related to security, do it only if you're not prone to depression. Because you know what happens when you see...
I know exactly what happens.
We saw the same thing with Sonar Cubes a long time ago, kind of like, then you see that, hey, we are going to do static analysis of this and that. And then you do it and you say, oh my. Life was so happy, so happier before I knew all this.
That was, that's what I was going through this week in one of the videos I shot. It was like, oh, that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what it is. So Kubescape implements the tests. I tell you what, all this testing stuff that's going on, I've sent it to one of the guys I work with. I sent him this. I sent him a couple others. He's salivating because he manages some of the tooling for our support organization. And it's like, oh, this is great. I don't have to recreate this. I can use this.
So nice.
Yeah.
You know what? It might be a good idea to basically do Kubescape on all the major or not so major vendors.
The one-click Kubernetes vendors.
Yeah, exactly. GKE, EKS, AKS, Alibaba, Linode, all of them, and see what comes out.
Yep, because now it's interesting how they're running this. I wish I could pause it, but I can't.
I hate that thing precisely because I cannot pause.
You know, if it was ASCII Cinema, you could, but they're ignoring or excluding Kube System and Kube Public.
Cheating, cheaters.
Those matter too, right? Kube System especially.
Yeah, but actually that is continuation of the story that I started earlier with CubeSphere. What was it? SonarCube and similar, right?
Yep.
You get depressed, and then you start excluding all the things that make you depressed from those reports until you get to something really, really, really nice.
Yep. So like, so at least here's a still of it. Like some of these are all 100%, so that's great. Exposed dashboard, lockdown, great, no problem, no failed. But then immutable container file system, 10 out of 11. So only 9% successful. Or application credentials and configuration files. Right? Okay, at least you found one. What was this one? Okay, cluster admin bindings. 21 out of 106. Right? It's like, come on. But at least you have it all in one place, right? At least you can look at it and it's like, oh, okay. Overall, 86%. Is that okay? Well, immutable container files system. That one I could probably fix. Cluster admin binding. Yeah, I probably could fix those. Like I would look at the big numbers and the failed and then start dealing with the smaller numbers. Exec into a container. I totally missed that on that write-up. Number one, you shouldn't exec into a container. But number two, in production, right?
You should in other environments because
well,
I need it. I mean, maybe only local environment, but there must be a place where I can exec. Yeah, some local, doesn't matter. Some dev environment, but there must be such a place.
Something, once you get beyond where the application developer is working, then it shouldn't be. If you're not allowed to have, what's the right role or account, service account role? If you don't have a certain permission, you shouldn't be able to do it, period.
Yeah.
Or if nobody can, basically it should be, if the only people that can do it are admins, then admins shouldn't be able to do it either, right? Admins shouldn't be able to exec into a container, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's either everybody or we should be inclusive. Isn't that kind of the new thing?
Be inclusive.
Inclusive.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Moz has a question. Let's bring it up here. Is there any tool to verify and scan a Git repository for malicious code before installing it? I'm afraid of running Kubescape against my clusters without verifying it.
Yeah.
Don't blame you.
There's a bunch of them, and that, I mean, before installing it, that's all part of the process of creating a PR, right? You do stuff. You do as much as you can before you deploy anything anywhere.
Yeah.
And then you do the rest only on things that actually require something at runtime.
Yeah. Anytime I see the installation process doing a curl to a shell script from outside world, though, that bothers me. Right.
I changed it to curl -o.
-o.
Yeah. So I download always lower O, which is output basically. Output it to a file.
Right.
Go through it and put it in Argo CD or Flux.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to it here when you take a look at, this is install sh. So yeah, I wouldn't run it live, but down.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I thought that it's kind of a manifest from it's a shell script. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To do the download of Kubescape. So
now I get it. But when you think about it, is that any different from brew install?
This?
Yeah.
The curl, no, it's the exact same thing.
Exactly. So basically, it's not that unless, and even if you say, okay, I'm going to download the binary, is downloading the binary any different? Because that binary can have anything that you want, right?
Right. Because all this is doing is it's reaching out and downloading the latest version and then copying it to user local bin, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have sudo rights in order to even run this script to begin with. You may not have sudo rights in certain systems. So basically this install is doing nothing more than going and grabbing that Kubescape binary. Well, okay, I don't really care about that, so let me just go over here to releases and just go download the binary or write my own install script. Potentially, yeah. I mean, now the question is do I trust what's inside of Kubescape? And this, I think this goes back more to Moz's question of, okay, well, what's going on inside of the real code? And how do I make sure that Kubescape isn't dialing home and reporting information? I think that might be kind of one of the questions.
I guess you're turning his question from how do you do that with your own code is how do you do that with third-party code, right?
Correct. This is supply chain conversations. Right? How do I trust the code that's written here is safe, and how do I define safe?
That's actually curious, and I think that we will have to be going into that direction, that more and more companies will probably have to start putting badges in their Git repos saying, hey, yes, I passed this security scanning from that service, I passed this by that service. You know those badges kind of like, it can be different third-party services, but yes, that you can see that this is safe. Snyk says that it's safe. It's never 100% safe, but it's safer if I have third party that tells another third party that something is safe.
Right. I was trying to see, I mean, they're just showing what Go report is, whatever Go report is. But it's probably still not the, yeah, there should be a, oh, there we go. What is this one? Let's go report card. Well, that took a while to load. But anyway, yeah, I guess until you see a, you should see a SNCC badge, it's A+ or something, or 100%, or whatever it is. Yeah. And actually, you want to see SNCC, and you'll see check marks, and you'll see, who's another big one that I'm drawing a blank on? Basically, you'll want at least 3 there, right? Because they're never going to agree.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for any specific tool, whether it's SNCC or something else, but kind of at least you have some notion as a user that something is fine. Because like Go report, I honestly couldn't care less about Go report as a user. Yeah, I would rather if that's replaced with SNCC. Yeah.
So what I would expect is on this release page or on the tag page, depending on which, well, I guess it would have to be on the release. So that means you'd have, number one, you have to cut a release. I would expect all of that data to be right here alongside the release. Or it should be sort of like another, it should be an asset, right?
Yeah, that reminds me, I remember that a long time ago we had those. We had files with hashes of the on all those things that we were using to compare, right? But those days are gone.
For a lot of projects, the answer is yes. Should it be there? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because I could show you one to where they're still using them, but you'd still have to actually run the process to validate it. But even so, that's only validating that the binary is true. Now we need something to validate that the code that's in the binary is okay, which is the SNCCs of the world.
Exactly.
Okay. So Kubescape looks cool. This one I thought was interesting, Pod Reaper. Now, one of the more interesting things of this was, look at who it's from.
Target, is that, are we talking about stores Target, right?
Yep. This is Target. This is Target. Now, I did not go through the rest of their open source stuff, but it's a rules-based pod killing container. So I'm not going to call this chaos.
It is in a way. I mean, there are no experiments probably to validate what happens afterwards, but yeah.
Yep. So configuration, namespace, schedule every 30 seconds, run duration for 15 minutes, exclude yourself. Sort of makes sense. And then it is a little bit of chaos, I guess. Chaos chance, at least one rule, whatever. So, but it's just doing pods. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it's nice, it's cool, it's useful, but everything that I just said would ignore the fact that we have those things already in Litmus, in Chaos Toolkit, in Chaos Mesh, and so on and so forth. Maybe if that's all you need. I'm always in favor of using the tools that do just what you need and not more. So maybe if that's all you need, then yeah, why go for Litmus and similar tools?
Correct. Just for grins, because I haven't done this, let's click on Target and see what else they have there. Let's see. Open source on-call scheduling, automated escalation. So it's basically, that's their, what's that called?
That's the most popular one.
PagerDuty. That's what I was thinking. Project's NGINX environment, port authority, API that leverages Claire to scan registries and clusters for vulnerabilities. Flopbot. And, okay. Well, this is interesting. Real-time container-based file scanner. What?
SNCC.
Yeah. Part of what SNCC does, it's true. Okay. Anyway, Target. Now I have somewhere else to go and not spend money. There is a Target just down the street from me, but it's rare that I go in there. But they still had toilet paper the last time I went in there, so that's a good thing.
It makes me very happy seeing those things like that, right? Knowing that, hey, if it's not business critical, if it's not our core business that we use to earn money, hey, we need to create this tool internally, open source it. That wasn't happening even 5 years ago.
Nope.
Now almost everybody.
Yeah, but you can see this one their IntelliJ file was committed, or whatever the IML is for them, 5 years ago, right? So this has been out there forever.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was 5 years ago public, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. One more tool that a few of us have used over time. NGINX Ingress. The full drop for V1 Beta 1, which we already knew was coming.
Cool.
Here's this is not large enough. This is a breaking change, right? Because V1 Beta has now turned into V1.
Yep.
And this will only work with Kubernetes 19 or higher.
Yeah. Nice.
So
and there is always a few people will learn the lesson not to use the latest because of this.
Yep. And they also have a couple of what I would consider fairly large issues, or at least being tracked as two separate issues. Ingress Controller only supports cluster scoped ingress class, which needs cluster-wide permission for this object. Otherwise, it's not going to start. Right? So there's no way I would even go here. Right? That's a complete non-starter for me.
So we're talking about controller being, I mean, isn't it in most cases cluster-wide?
It should be.
I mean, resources when you create are in your namespaces and all those things.
Right.
At least I haven't seen very often that everybody gets their own Ingress controller in a way, or every application getting its own Ingress. And actually, that reminds me on a conversation that I had not long ago, a few days ago, is, hey, how do I, Google is killing me with the cost of external load balancer. How can I fix it? And basically the short version of my answer was use one Ingress controller, not one per application.
Wait, they were using a separate Ingress controller for every application?
Yeah. I mean, that goes more or less in line with kind of
I know.
where it's cluster scoped or namespace scoped.
Yeah, that's true. Good grief. Anyway, the one thing I did like about this is in their release here, I liked how they listed out their changes. That was nice, and linked back to the to the issues. This is done really, really well. There was one other item that I saw in here that wasn't scary, but I thought I was like, oh, that's interesting, but now I don't see it. No, it doesn't matter right now. It was cool, but it wasn't that cool. So anyway, if you're using latest for NGINX Ingress, make sure you don't have that set up to auto run tonight or tomorrow night, because you'll be working this weekend. But guess who won't be working this weekend? You won't, because you're using Devtron, right?
It's cool. I really liked it. I don't think it's completely mature. I don't think it's doing everything it needs to do. But I think that the direction it's taking is absolutely awesome. Using tools that are really good. Integrating and making them easy and making them opinionated. The only thing I'm missing from Devtron is to maybe give me options sometimes not to be fully opinionated.
Right. Sort of like what we saw earlier with Google Cloud Run. Right.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
want the happy path, it's all there. But then I still want to be able to open the door and turn a knob if I need to. Not a bunch of knobs. Just give me just that one layer in.
That's the thing. If you take analogy with Google Cloud Run, I'm fully on board and I love the idea of using it from source, as long as that does not end up being the only option. If it's the only option, then we have a problem.
Right. That's where opinionation goes wrong, when you have only one.
Yes, exactly.
The only time that matters
does not...
is in Highlander. There can only be one.
Yeah. Now I sounded maybe negative. I think it's a good thing. It's worthwhile trying.
Well, and it's using what we would consider the better options that exist today. I'm not going to use best of breed. That's way overused.
Yeah, but it uses Argo CD, Argo workflows, Argo rollouts. I'm not sure about Argo events, Claire, and a few other things.
Yeah.
There is Grafana, which I kind of Prometheus. Basically, if you and me would sit down now, maybe we wouldn't use exactly those tools, but we would probably end up with something very similar.
Right. And we probably, even if we wouldn't have used one or two of these tools, they probably would have shown up on the list at least for a little while. Right?
Yeah.
Just because.
Or it would be tools based on similar principles and things like that. Yeah. Not necessarily same tools. I can easily say, hey, Flux instead of Argo CD. In that context, when I say Argo CD, I mean Argo CD or Flux. Nobody cares anymore, but that's the thing you use for that specific task.
Right. So, Devtron's cool.
Yeah.
It's probably going to get cooler over time.
I hope so.
What are you working on for next week?
Something related with Argo CD.
Okay. There's always something related with Argo CD for you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I have probably unrealistically high number of videos that have Argo CD. Even if I count like kind of mentioned once, 1 second, then I have a lot of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to remember what else we had for today. I think you just finished up a video or a live stream right before this one. You're becoming quite the live streamer, which is good.
Yeah. Would I introduce a person that's about it?
Introduce them and walk away.
A lot of live streams are in the works. It takes kind of like a couple of months until it's set up because it's with other companies, but there will be a lot of live stream. Not on channels that everybody's used, but the work thing.
Yep. And I'm trying to think, was there one more thing? I was looking at the notes. That's the reason why I was looking away. But I covered everything. I still haven't edited next week's podcast yet. I did get started. This was a tough one. Not as tough as the one that we did last week. So we recorded one, was it last week, week before last? To where I lost internet twice. And anytime the internet drops, the recording stops. So I have to piece things back together. And I haven't told you this, so I'll tell everybody as we're listening. So typically when it stops, everybody's audio stops at the same place. So I've got 5 minutes, 41 seconds, however many files, right? Great. Well, this time, the first time it stopped, I had 3 different file lengths. And the second time it stopped, I had 3 separate file lengths. And then when I stopped it at the end, I had 3 separate file lengths. So now I'm going to have to do manual alignments, and I am not looking forward to
that sucks.
Yeah. But that one's not due for that one doesn't come out for another 4 weeks, I think. So I've got a little bit of time to work on that one. I can do that whenever I don't want to edit again, which is a lot of time. That's okay. I do enjoy it. I enjoy listening back. It's like, oh yeah, we did have that conversation. We are looking for either some guests or topics to talk about. So if you have some ideas that we haven't talked about yet, over in the Slack workspace, over in the podcast channel, just go drop some ideas over there. We've got another live stream coming up, maybe on September 15th, which is on a Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost certain.
Yeah, I mean, it's high 90% chance, like upper 90s.
Exactly.
We're not 3.9s yet. We're probably 98%.
It's going to be double of us, 4 of us.
There's going to be 4 of us. We're going to be squared and we wouldn't be cubed. That would be 8.
One of us is going to be cute.
And I'll move on from there. So that's going to be a little different. And we're not really sure how it's going to play out yet, and that's fine. It's just an idea. We're going to play with it and see where it goes.
It's going to be fun. For me, I don't know about the rest. That's not my concern.
I may just turn into producer for that one and let it be 3, and I'm in the background. That's fine. So anyway, I think we might wrap it up because I have to take my car in. I have an oil leak. My car is not like an airplane to where once the oil stops, that's where you have a real problem. Normally mine doesn't leak a whole lot, so I got to figure out what's going on. What?
Look at me.
Oh, look at the camera. Okay, here, let me do this.
I remembered.
You remember? Yeah. Okay, here, wait a second. Okay, stay there for a second longer. Yeah, he's remembering time. Just lean in. Thank you. Okay. For people wondering what's going on, I needed thumbnails, and I can grab thumbnails at the end. Thank you for remembering.
And I reject watching the camera. My brain does not compute that.
Doing this YouTube thing, you think it's easy. It's not. Obviously. So I think we're going to wrap it up here because I do need to get on the road. And we will be back next week. Podcast will come out Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern. Your videos, when are you doing your videos now? It seems like you've been changing up a little bit. Is it Mondays now?
Mondays. Okay. Yeah, it's every Monday, 4 o'clock until I change it, which can be any time.
So it's Mondays, 4 p.m. CET, 10 a.m. ET.
You're getting good at this type of calculations.
I'm good until
ET, that's
about
6. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's 6 hours. It's 6 hours right now. I'm good for about another 6 weeks. You may notice there hasn't been a whole lot of news. We were talking about before. We're right at the end of summer, so we probably still have another 2 weeks of U.S.-based summer because of Labor Day coming up. Most of Europe will be back the first full week of September, right? Is that pretty normal?
Yeah, I mean mid-September actually. School start mid-September.
Mid-September, okay. So mid-September. But then after that, we've got 4 weeks until KubeCon LA, which I heard Brett say yesterday he canceled his plans to go. I think a lot of people are going to cancel.
We also canceled. I did not cancel yet. I'm still waiting for presidential approval, but I will probably cancel it as well. It's simply
it's
because the problem is that also, even if you want to go and then you know that majority of people will likely give up, and then you don't want to go there to end up being one out of 100 people in a 50,000 people size of venue.
It just doesn't make sense. I would say
Europe, half a year from now, it will be better.
Yeah. So just for the time you're going to be there, just go ahead and do live streams. Do like 24-hour live streams.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure out something. We need to do something.
Yeah. Okay. So let's call it a day. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back next Friday. I think we've covered everything. Haven't had enough caffeine today, and it's already... How long have I been up today? 11 hours. Maybe that's why I need caffeine. It's time. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.
Cheers.